set. I did get that.
Okay.
Oh, I want this jelly key.
Yeah, this was a good.
No, yeah, it's only $50 for an enter key.
For an enter key.
I mean, it's a really pretty enter. Also, it's SA profile, so you have to have one of the expensive SA key sets for it to match. So if you don't have one of those, that's like, it's only going to take like 8 or 9 months if you ordered one now to get it. I don't even think there's actually an active group buy. So you could try to get one secondhand and pay twice as much.
I still have that floating around somewhere. It's actually a very nice set of lockpicks. I don't know why they have to be special ordered, because they're like a brand of lockpick. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the mass drop thing. It's like sometimes they'll have something that is like custom made and you can't get anywhere else, and then sometimes it's just a thing that you can buy any place, but it's like $5 cheaper, which I don't think really makes
the deal was. Anyway, okay, we are live now, and I'm going to start recording. No sponsor this week. Okay. Spreadsheet looks good. We have an email. Yeah, let me social us real quick here. Okay, we are good to go. And if everyone could just ignore the Christmas wreath behind me, that'd be fantastic.
Now I can't see anything else.
Yeah, I know.
Christmas is right around the corner.
It is actually.
It's the corner that we already passed.
Yes.
And so we have to go backwards.
That's true. Wow, that was.
I would love to go backwards, frankly.
How many corners are in a year?
I don't know. Is it equal to seasons?
See, I think there are 4, because when I was in first grade and we learned how the calendar works, the calendar in the room was like in a square shape, like all the months. So that's the way I imagine a year.
I think it works like this: one corner for each equinox and one corner for each solstice.
Okay.
I guess. I mean,
how many is that then?
That's 4.
4, yeah. So
okay.
It's very lunar of you.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, you could just also say it's based on the seasons, which are roughly equal to the equinox and solstices, but okay.
If there's only one corner, then that doesn't correspond to seasons.
I was going to say, strangely enough, the seasons are based on the equinoxes and the solar solstices. So, yeah, in a way, I kind of said that exactly.
I think they vary by a day or two, depending on the year.
They do vary by a day or two, but that's because people are lazy.
Yeah,
and they don't want to keep going.
But hang on, wait a second. Appropriate. Like, we still say the seasons are all on the 21st.
Oh,
right.
So you know what, Matt? There's slightly different corners.
So you're telling me that the winter solstice is actually
it's a rounded corner,
like not the real solstice?
The Galaxy S8 corner. That's what it is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can hear you.
We just don't have a good answer for that.
Okay. That's okay.
Liam, are you doing your hair different these days? It looks
I am. It doesn't match my profile picture anymore.
It's less swoopy.
Yeah. I got it cut shorter. So that's my hair update.
Should we put that on the spreadsheet so it's in the podcast?
A good hair update. We could actually make that the title, a good hair update.
Liam's hair update.
Okay. Right. Well, that first order of business is settled.
Yeah. You're recording this, right? We should definitely.
I'm absolutely recording this. This is all actually going to be in the show.
This is the cold open.
I'm gonna splice Matt's intro back to the beginning of this conversation.
Well, it's okay, guys. I put it on the spreadsheet and I misspelled a word and left it that way because I like it.
The higher update. Yes.
I'm actually cool with doing cold opens for the show. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Just open the show with us talking about random bullshit.
Wait, how is that different?
That's how the YouTube video works.
I mean, it's different because you get this license to do that instead of like, here's the start of the show. Now let's procrastinate for 5 minutes. Okay, first topic.
I mean, we
I
can
feel
do
like
both.
we did at least 2 angry emails about that. I listen to this show for Android news, not Liam's hair update.
Oh goodness.
The show is not appropriate for the young or time sensitive.
That could be another good episode title. I'm just gonna not appropriate for the young or time sensitive.
Hair.
Here indeed.
All right.
So will you just say we started?
Are we gonna start?
Sure,
Should we
we're
start?
started. I'm still recording.
Wait,
It's fine.
Who does the start? Oh, that's me. That's me.
That would be you.
Oh wait, I can't start. Hold on. I'll start. I don't have the Ninja Chat up yet. Can't start without the Ninja Chat. Hey guys, we're live. Look at that.
We are live. We could do cold opens. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I just feel like it would upset people because they're used to things.
Well, maybe we can test it this time. You just splice in that whole thing we did.
There's a lot of shows that will take. There's a lot of shows that will take like a random moment from the show and insert it before the intro.
Yes.
And then you're like listening the whole show to like, where did that soundbite come from? I know it's in here somewhere. It just builds a suspense, and
Maybe we could splice in the part where we name the episode, because that's like, it's very satisfying because then you know.
That's actually a good idea.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It means a lot more work for David.
Yes, it does. I would have to like time mark. I wonder if I can mark while I'm recording. Let me actually just go ahead and try that real quick. I wonder if I can like resort tools generate. I want to generate something. What if I want to? Oh, God damn it, that's not what I want. No.
I mean, or you could just like, you could look at it has like a time readout, right? You just look at the
I
time.
have to like write that down or something, and I don't know. That's getting complicated.
I know it would be like if only you were sitting at a device into which you could input data and have it saved for later. That would make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Maybe if it had some sort of alphanumeric input device right in front of your hands.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we should just start the show, because this is getting really, really in to some really technical
It's a great cold open.
That's one way to describe it.
Oh, I was gonna start. You blew it.
God damn it, Ryan.
I'm gonna start. Welcome to the Android Police Podcast, your weekly audio source for all things Android. It is Thursday, January 19th, 2017. I'm your host, Matthew Smith.
I'm David Reddick.
I'm Liam Spradlin.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
All right, guys, I cut out the part where we talk about Liam's hair, although I just completely talked about Liam's hair, so paradox achieved.
It's been established.
Don't worry. We'll splice it into the cold open.
Sweet.
What if we had like a cold openception, where there's like a cold open, but then there's a cold open inside the cold open?
I was thinking we could do like a breaking news sounder, and then like put parts of the conversation about my hair into that.
And then what if I slow down and speed up the audio just at random throughout the entire cold open, just to deeply, and lose all of our listeners?
I just like to point out that literally nothing has changed since I did the open. So I don't know what that means, but let's talk about Google. All right, so VentureBeat has a story out this week regarding Google's smartwatch, which we have, or I should say smartwatches, which we have known about over here at Android Police for several months. Apparently, these watches are being built by LG, branded as being built by LG. So they're not phones by Google or watches by Google. They are LG, sporting digital crowns, and supposedly launching along with Android Wear 2.0 on February 9th.
I would also like to take this time to lodge a complaint about the phrase digital crown, which makes no actual sense.
I would like to lodge a complaint about the component itself, which I would argue makes no logical sense.
But like, because it's a physical crown, so it exists. There's nothing digital about the crown.
It's really more analog, right?
It is in fact an analog crown. Perhaps it is digitally actuated, but it is a analog device. You twist it with your analog fingers, and it twists in an analog fashion.
So here are my thoughts from an interaction perspective. So I think it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure Apple said that the reason they liked the digital crown, besides being able to click on things, was to like scroll and prevent you from suffering your finger covering content when you wanted to scroll things.
Well, I really like to read the times on my smartwatch, so this is going to be really, really useful for me.
But what sensitive documents are you looking at on your smartwatch that like your experience is going to be harmed by covering it for a fraction of a second to scroll? And also, I would argue that since your wrist is a solid surface, like it doesn't seem that easy to turn a circular object like perpendicular to the plane of your wrist, right?
I mean, but counterpoint, when you're using the crown, you can make cool little sound effects like.
Okay, but you can make those anyway.
I would like to suppose that if the idea is to not obscure the screen while scrolling, what about left-handed people?
I mean, I read some comments from people with Apple Watches who said they don't have any difficulty using it.
Can you just turn it upside down, or like?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know if that works. That's a good question.
I think that's a thing the Apple Watch does, isn't it? Like if you want to wear it on your other wrist.
Maybe it does.
If it doesn't, I'm mad.
You could probably literally just remove the straps, flip it around, and put the straps back on.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
But I just feel like the return is so little compared to there's like a huge trade-off in comfort and usability, is there not? Like, am I wrong about that? I would love to be wrong about it.
I don't think that this makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I feel like a physical like control for scrolling on a watch makes a lot more sense when you have a long list of things you need to scroll through. But the tiny little crown doesn't seem like it would offer enough rotation, enough speed to advance through a long list for it to make any sense.
And I think that even if
it makes sense for scrolling through the app list, sort of.
I mean, I don't know if it would really be any faster because you've only got so much space that you can drag your finger across the little crown before you have to lift and you have to keep sort of ratcheting it. With the Samsung Gear watches, they have the bezel that rotates, and at least with that, you have a pretty significant amount of space. You can just keep spinning all the way around to get through a long list of things. This seems less efficient, and a lot of Androids scrolling behavior is paginated anyway. You just sort of flick and you go down one whole screen, so it doesn't seem as useful to me.
You can also pretend you're James Bond and you're setting a timer on a remote explosive device, which is really nice.
These are things you can do with the digital
I'm pretty sure that all of the crown buttons on Android Wear watches right now spin because the people who designed them didn't really pay a lot of attention to that. So you can pretend that anyway now.
I think this would be bad. I can
confirm the Huawei watch spins.
I think the twisting dial is more fun for the James Bond role play. I definitely think that's the more, because does it click on the Gear S3? Does do tick 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 tick?
It does. Yeah.
Oh come on! How is that not the best the best bomb timer setter? It's the king of the category.
I have two things to say. First, I want to see this digital crown show up on Knob reviews, Knob Feel reviews on YouTube.
He'll be like.
And second, Dan in the chat says, if the digital crown isn't simply housing a radar a la Project Soli, then they have failed. And I think that would be awesome.
That would be a really great reveal for
it's definitely not good. Yeah, you get your hopes way down for these watches. Just put them way down there. Just lower the hopes.
They did show a demo of Soli in a smartwatch. But
It's definitely
yeah.
not happening. just to let you know, don't even let your hopes soar that high.
It's
Just put
too
them
late.
down. Get
They're
out
already
a
up there.
shotgun and just shoot your hopes, because it's not gonna happen. There's nothing magical about these watches. I'm sorry. I'm really hyping up the product, aren't I?
Do we have a bubble bursting
But-
sounder?
I mean,
Yeah, we should.
undersell and over deliver.
So the things that we know about them in terms of them actually being, aside from digital crowns, which is a source of great contention, obviously, only the big one gets Android Pay. So the Sport, which is the big chunky one with LTE and GPS
That's
and a
just
heart rate
dumb.
sensor.
I don't
The
know
small
what
one doesn't have NFC, it doesn't have GPS, it doesn't have LTE, obviously, and doesn't have a heart rate sensor. And so it doesn't do Android Pay. It's not clear which of those components is required to do Android Pay. It could be like 3 of them are needed. It could be 2 of them. It could just be NFC only. It's not clear yet. I don't think Google's laid out guidelines.
So wait, if your phone is in airplane mode, you can still do Android Pay, right?
I don't.
I've never tested that, but I always assumed that it was just beaming over the.
Oh, your phone. Yes, your phone can still do it.
So then, I feel like it shouldn't need anything but NFC, and it's just kind of dumb to not have NFC in the little watch.
But you could be wrong.
I mean, let's hope I'm not, because that would be really.
Because I think the situation with the Gear S3, right, is that it can do offline, but it can only do so many purchases before then it's like, no, I need to talk to your phone again. And doesn't also have the same issue as the Apple Watch, where if you have like tattoos, because it uses the heartbeat sensor and it won't let you pay, because it's like, I don't think you have real skin.
I tested this, and it does not know when it's on my arm when I use it.
That's fun.
You just have to enter the PIN code every time, which is dumb.
Oh my god, that's not obnoxious.
Yeah, really. That would suck. But I mean, hopefully it's just an NFC thing for Android Pay. And I mean, I would be fine if it needed to connect to the phone to do it, like that, whatever, no big deal. But if they required LTE to do Android Pay, that would be obnoxious, because there is no version of reality in which I'm going to pay additional money every month to have LTE on my watch.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you're on Project Fi, there's no cost to it though, right? You can just put the SIM in there.
Is that a thing for watches, or is that like any device? Like,
I know any internet connected device, I believe, on Project Fi. You can just add another SIM. It doesn't get but it doesn't do telephony. I think it's data only. So okay, this is a good question then. So if the watch can do standalone phone calls, will Project Fi data only SIM be able to do that with the watch? I would be very curious to understand how that will work, or if Google didn't bother to really think about that. I think that's going to be an interesting question. Not that I'm really keen on doing phone calls on a watch, but hey, it seems like kind of a flagship feature.
People seem to want to do that for some reason. I don't know why.
I guess if you have Bluetooth earbuds and you only have your watch, I mean, but when
I don't get it. Going to see, like, I'm going to go someplace, but I'm not going to take my phone. I'm just going to take my smartwatch. That's never a thing that's going to happen.
I mean, people are like, oh yeah, but I leave my smartphone in the locker at the gym, and I'm like, dude, that's dumb.
Yeah,
why would you do that?
Yeah, no. Somebody broke into my locker not that long ago and took my wallet. Luckily, I had my phone with me, so it would have really sucked if I had my phone in there.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't know how much they're going to cost. The rumors are going on sale in Q1. The EB leaks said they're going on sale on the 10th and being announced officially on the 9th. So it's not clear when they're going to actually ship. You'll just be able to start buying them the day after. So that's going to be a thing. I will be very curious to see how the LTE version is priced. So how much was the Watcher Bane second edition LTE?
What was like $350.
So okay, 350 sounds about right. If it's more than that, I will not be super excited. I mean, I won't be excited either way because it's smartwatch.
You're not going to be excited no matter what price.
I mean, if people's trying
to be like, David, we're sending you one of each for free, and you wouldn't be excited.
I mean, that's kind of my job. So yeah, I don't typically get super excited over that.
No, but if Google's trying to like bring smartwatches back and like make this work, I think 350 is already pushing it.
Yeah, and then the other one seems so gimped. I mean, the batteries in both of these are much smaller than I would expect. I forget the exact milliamp hours are, but it's less than you would think. So I'm hoping that like there's some massive, huge battery life improvement in Android Wear 2.0 that Google's just been like going to be like ta-da, and because otherwise the small one maybe not so viable.
Well, they're going to run it's the nougat based version of Wear, right? That's what 2.0
Yeah.
is. So it'll have presumably improved toes, one would hope.
So here's a question. Will they release Google Fit 2.0 with Wear 2.0? I don't know if this was in the VentureBeat leak, but yes, they will. They're going to do that. I know for a fact that's going to be a thing. So you heard it here first, maybe.
Unless you didn't.
Unless you didn't.
Unless that's going to upset Google, in which case that was just a guess.
Yeah, it's not going to upset Google. Trust me. But yeah, so those are going to be a thing. And I'm sure there will be lots and lots of words about them next month.
Yes, lots of words. Okay, so let's move on. So apparently we're hearing some reports that Android One, which is kind of like the Android partner phone for emerging markets initiative back from 2014, apparently coming to the U.S. So I'm not really sure what to expect from this, David. What about you?
Sorry, I was muted. But I think we're going to see an Android One phone between $200 and $300 made by a manufacturer, and it will be sold for sale in America. And it will have updates from Google. So
I mean, I'm assuming that we're not going to get the same brands of Android One devices that are.
Yeah, I would assume we're not going to have a Spice branded handset. Probably not a Sony either. But wow, there's some like construction going on upstairs or something. Anyway, I don't think this is a good idea. I think this is a bad idea, actually. I feel like this is what happens when Google's like, all right, now we've got a hardware team and they're going to make products. So the Android team, you don't have to worry about products anymore. You just do your Android thing. And the Android team's like, wait, but now we don't have a thing to sell, to do anymore. And so like, let's bring Android One to America. This feels very much like this got approved by somebody at a high level without probably really considering what this says about Google's product strategy in the United States, even if the devices are branded by manufacturers. I think this is at odds in a way with Google's larger product strategy in terms of hardware.
It's the replacement for Nexus.
I was going to say it seems to me like a gut reaction to all the complaints about no cheap Nexuses this year.
I'm sure this has probably been on the table for a while, but it's one of those things where maybe it's the B test. Maybe that's how they're justifying it. But like, it's a bad B test. It doesn't make any sense. There's not this highly competitive, market for unlocked, like premium budget phones in the United States. Like, there's Motorola, and that's pretty much where it ends.
Doesn't that mean there's an opportunity?
I don't think that means there's an opportunity. I think that means most manufacturers don't think there's an opportunity, and that there's no real reason to invest in distribution of those kind of phones in America.
Well, I mean, there are Chinese manufacturers that are like getting into the market in that same sort of price range.
And
like
they're not selling any phones.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, though. They don't move any volume because nobody wants them. There's just not demand. I think Moto has a good cult following in the G series, but even that doesn't move many units, I don't think, because Moto's been out of the top 5 OEMs in the US for a while now. I'm just not. And so the other thing is, even if there is a market, is there any like indication that market's going to grow? And I don't think there is. I think that market is just slowly more and more being cannibalized by high-end phones and payment plans, and people realizing that, hey, the expensive phones are pretty good and that's what I want, both by ads and just kind of word of mouth. And I don't think there's a real opportunity for Google to grow a movement behind Android One in the United States. I think the time for that passed probably a long time ago. Maybe there are people out there who would want this, sure, but they're the same people who want Nexus phones, and it's the tiny audience. And the whole reason Google did the Pixel rebrand was to try to reach a bigger audience. So it feels kind of backward, at least to me.
All right. Hey, let's move on to the rumor roundup. Let's talk about some phones that will likely not be cheap at all. Not even a little bit. So we got some rumors this week regarding the Galaxy S8 because, of course, we do. Starting off with headphone jacks, which have long been rumored to be gone. And the Galaxy S8 now appears maybe not so much.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a headphone jack on it. So, yeah. Samsung appears to, I don't know if they're ever considering getting rid of it or if there's just some confusion as to that point, because it appears there was, because Sam Mobile also said it was going away late last year. With a fair degree of confidence at the time, I think they said that.
So
I mean, it seemed like a pretty safe bet, right?
It did.
Yeah, and so HTC is getting rid of the headphone jack, and I think we also heard that LG was going to get rid of it in the G6.
I don't think we heard that. I think we heard the opposite. I think we heard that it's
we?
going to still be there.
Perhaps I'm thinking of somebody else.
I don't think LG would get rid of the headphone jack. I mean, it seems very un-LG.
I mean, that you would also have thought like maybe they won't get rid of a removable battery, but that seems like something
I would think that. I would definitely think that. At this point, it's probably that idea is not really getting them any wins when they have to give up waterproofing to get there. I think that I can understand. Getting rid of the headphone jack doesn't come with a trade-off that's a plus on the other side. It's just a negative. And especially if like the Galaxy S8 had the headphone jack and LG didn't, oh my God, rip LG's hopes and dreams forever. That would be the end of it. I think that would be very bad for them. And I guess I can understand why Samsung keeps it, because I think that the marketing upside against the iPhone, which doesn't get, renewed for another like probably 4 months, 5 months after the Galaxy S8 comes out, they can rip on this for ages in ads. And I bet they will. I think there's just too much to exploit there for them.
So the question I think becomes, if that's the plan, does that remove their ability to remove the headphone jack a year or two from now?
I don't know. I mean, if they go by the Apple kind of TikTok thing, I would bet it'd be back next year.
There will come a time probably where it'll be acceptable to sell a phone that doesn't have a headphone jack. That's going to happen eventually, but now is not the time.
Yeah, I don't think it is. And I think Samsung will probably keep it around for a while yet. So I just think there's too much upside for Samsung to keep it from both a marketing and a customer loyalty perspective.
And I don't think that USB Type-C is widely enough adopted yet.
Oh, they're definitely going with Type-C, though. I mean...
Well, I agree, but what I'm saying is that I don't think that there are enough devices out there to really push the manufacturers to be building in mass all these USB Type-C.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially when Lightning is being pushed on the flip side. So there's no unity there. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean,
now, if there's a phone that could build that demand, it's probably going to be the Galaxy S8, but it's a risky launch, I think, with that one.
Yeah, is Apple actually going to stick with Lightning? Because it seems like they're going to have to move to Type-C eventually. They're doing Type-C on all their computers now. It seems very bizarre.
It seems very bizarre, though, that they would switch to Type-C after just getting rid of their headphone jack and telling you that Lightning is what you need.
But there hasn't been this big glut of exactly. They've been going for AirPods. There hasn't been this big glut of Lightning headphones. I think because I remember, was it? It was when the iPhone 6s came. There was the iPhone 6s, the first one to do Lightning audio. Because I remember like the CES after a new iPhone came out. I think it was it Belkin somebody came out with or announced the first pair of Lightning headphones, and they never came out. Like they did a big press release, they announced I think the pricing even, and then the headphones never actually got launched.
I remember that. That was it. Yeah, that was the thing.
I wonder if Apple's telling people. I wonder. It could be that Apple's saying to their partners that, hey, we don't think Lightning is a good audio interface. Maybe wait. I don't know though. I'm sure there are going to be some Lightning audio accessories in the next year or two, but yeah, I think it's still an open question if Apple sticks with Lightning on the iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they like controlling the standard, but at the same time, it limits what they can do with all of their other devices. Like they don't want to put Lightning on everything because everybody's expecting to have Type-C.
Yeah, I think Apple probably, you can tell Apple is frustrated by the fact that wireless personal audio is still in such a kind of half-assy state. Like Bluetooth isn't that good. Bluetooth works, but Bluetooth is far from optimal. Even if you use all the latest parts of the spec and everything, it's like, well, Bluetooth still has real limitations. Apple's worked around those in terms of like if you have all Apple devices, then you get some benefits that maybe you don't on other Bluetooth stuff. But for regular Bluetooth, like still not the best experience. It doesn't have that just works feel to it. Bluetooth never really has. So yeah. Wireless personal audio is very frustrating to me because I want it to be very good, but it's still very meh. And we've had so many years that it's been around, it just doesn't seem to get that much better over time. It seems to be kind of stuck, at least to me.
So we're just going to have Chromecast headphones now, right? So Chromecast audio headphones.
I would love that actually.
Or Wi-Fi direct headphones.
I mean, because doesn't that make sense to you? Because I want to pick I want to pick what I play back on, not based on like buttons on what I'm wearing. I want to pick it based on what I'm doing with the media source. That's how I control my music, at least. That makes more sense to me, actually. Yeah. And as Daniel Chow points out, Bluetooth plus NFC has been the easiest for him. I think that's a good point. Bluetooth and NFC do well together because it makes the pairing super fast. And I think I think some Bluetooth audio accessories will like start the connection based on NFC, like turn on the product, which is good. But it still feels like a chance happening. That wasn't like designed to occur.
I mean, I've had a number of devices that say they'll do that and then they just don't do anything.
Yeah, because NFC is. Yeah.
All right, so
good stuff.
One other rumor from the Galaxy 8 rumor mill, Galaxy S8 rumor mill, I should say. The front panels appear to have leaked out. Obviously, we can't with 100% accuracy guarantee that this is what the final phone will look like, but we do have front panels that are, we'll just say interesting. These are interesting front panels. So curved edges, almost no bezels, and I don't know, the corners. The corners are a little bit odd.
Yeah, and actually, so these aren't the front panels. They are screen protectors designed for the Galaxy S8. Which explains why they look weird. So the thing that's important here to me is, so when I saw these pictures, I started talking to one of our sources, and the thing I asked about was, so the corners where the bezel meets the screen, where like the cover glass is, they're rounded. Well, yes. The display of the Galaxy S8 will be physically rounded at the corners, like WebOS, but physically rounded.
It's like the Pre.
Yes. So, and this is the first ever, leaked product or accessory I've seen related to the S8 that has this. And so that to me, was like way too crazy a coincidence. There's no way you would just guess that as part of a render. That and it shows both models have curved screens, which I believe they do.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how that's gonna work with like apps if
Yeah.
like things are going to be cut off weird at the corners.
So
There's
my
already-
suspicion is that the rounding will only affect the status and action bars in your normal non-full screen
Yeah,
applications.
but
Yeah, but
there are
this-
apps that run in full screen though.
And that also still has implications for the system UI, like notification icons and time and stuff. Like, I think that this looks really cool, and I think it will look cool on the actual devices. But at this point, it just seems like Samsung is trying to break things.
Well, I would say this though, as far as the system UI, I think Samsung on their curved screens is already pushing things in towards the center to avoid the curve on the screen.
Which is also, well, okay. On system UI, that's fine. It still costs you a little bit of space, but there's
It does.
still some pixel melt on the edge.
Yeah, I guess. So I would bet, based on this insane screen to bezel ratio, that the screens aren't a typical aspect ratio. That it's more like the Mi Mix, and you've got like maybe a buffer area for the navigation, for things like video and stuff. Maybe so the video doesn't get cut at the edges, which would be good.
Now, hopefully, Samsung fixes their edge rejection algorithms because it has not been
it's
good.
gonna be so. This phone is like rapidly like devolving into like just a slippery polished rock. Like it's just
I believe we may have predicted this several years ago when the Edge phones first came out.
yeah. I feel like somebody in Samsung's design directive is like organic. There are no sharp curves in nature. And that's like the entire design directive behind the phone at this point.
Didn't they call, like, when the Galaxy S3 came out? Didn't
S3,
they
yeah.
talk about that? They were like,
Major
it's like a
Yeah.
Yes,
pebble.
their press invites were like river rocks or something.
Yeah.
The color was pebble blue, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they're
Because-
just like
Because
going
pebbles
back.
are blue.
And as people, are pointing out right now, yeah, these screen protectors looking at, there's no room for capacitive keys. There are no capacitive keys on the Galaxy S8.
Yeah, it's going to be
I'm
on
like
screen.
99% sure on that one. So what you're getting in their place is supposedly now software navigation buttons that also feature 3D touch style secondary actions. So you
Why?
press harder and they do
And that
stuff.
seems
Why?
dumb. But I'm happy about on-screen buttons.
I'm happy about
Yeah.
on-screen buttons, but the radius of those corners does not look to be 4080p to me.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that there's going to be some initial weirdness, but Samsung's going to sell so many of these that I'm sure developers will start to account for it just by.
Will they?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's the only
The only
phone
thing that I've seen developers accounting for is Samsung-specific bugs.
Yeah, but this is so deep in the interface. Like, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, the bezels are tiny. Like this to me is Samsung gets right the best of both worlds in terms of the Xiaomi Mi Mix's stupid approach and the idea that yeah, we probably need two bezels on a phone on the front because putting the camera on the bottom is stupid. Unless you can develop a display the camera can see through, I think we're going to be stuck with that for a while. And I don't want to start shifting things around arbitrarily just because it looks pretty. This seems like a better approach.
I don't even think it looks pretty that way. Just saying.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people think it looks very stunning, but yeah. And the other thing that makes me think these panels are legit, by the way, is they contain the extra holes for the iris eye unlock sensors that are needed, which means an extra camera that sees IR. It has like there's no RGB filter on it, and then there is a larger notification LED that can do like a high output IR blast to light up your eyes in infrared. And I've again not seen that on any other kind of leak or render or anything, so makes it seem much more legit. Oh, and the fingerprint scanner. So what I've heard, I'm wondering, this is like, yes, it's okay. What I'm hearing is on the back, but so imagine a Galaxy S6 Ep.237, which I'm going to put up on screen so that you can like get an idea if you want to look at that. So you have the heart rate sensor and the flash and the little extra sensors for the camera here. Fingerprint scanner there. So symmetry for the fingerprint
Weird.
scanner.
That doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not good.
So you're going to smudge up the camera lens a lot.
That's not a good spot. Even that's not comfortable. Why would they do that?
There's still a long shot, although I think it's unlikely that Samsung's playing its cards very close to the chest on the in-screen scanner, and that it'll be there. But I don't think that's happening.
It seems like camera and sensor placement on the back of the phone must be a really challenging area for manufacturers.
It shouldn't be, because like it's super easy. Like just put it there. Like put it in the spot that it where your finger.
Yeah, but there's so many like weird arrangements that I'm just wondering like what's going on there? Like why?
Unnecessary differentiation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't make any sense, and I know that some of the case renders have not featured a cutout for the fingerprint scanner on the back. So I mean, like I said, that's what I've heard. Maybe they did crack the thing where it's in the glass. I mean, that'd be amazing. That would be a game changer.
It would, yeah. Whoever gets that first. I mean, if it's Apple.
Well, I know Samsung's been working on it for years. Like they've been trying to do this forever. So you know it's something they eventually want to do. But I don't know if they got it right.
So in terms of usability, like if it's just in the glass, where's the indicator? Like how do you know where to put it?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I have to that's probably a huge, like, implementation thing.
You have to use the Samsung stock lock screen to know where it is. That's what it is.
Oh God, that would be obnoxious. Yeah, that's definitely a big concern. And I have to wonder maybe if their issues with implementing it aren't necessarily just technological as much as they are experience oriented, where there's good way to.
Android doesn't have a way to like. There's not like some sort of software trigger for the fingerprint sensor. Is there like, there's no way to like pull up like an indicator on the screen when something asks for a fingerprint?
Not automatically.
Because that I feel like is something that they would need. Because like if an app said, I understand fingerprints, and like a little like glowing circle could pop up on the screen, like here's where you put your finger.
Yeah.
Then that would be.
I don't know, like that.
Samsung could add an API.
And everybody will use it. Everybody.
Oh no.
So, maybe I don't understand how this works 100%, but it seems to me that if an application has to send an intent over to the operating system in order to activate the fingerprint reader and read data from it, there's no reason that the operating system couldn't also activate some type of a UI element to indicate where that fingerprint reader is at the same time, right?
Yeah.
You just have to have draw over other applications' permissions and just do it.
I also just think it's a UX problem from the standpoint of like, then you're eating up screen space that you ostensibly claimed back by eliminating the button on the front.
And then I think there's also a real divisive problem in whether it should go whoomp, whoomp, whoomp,
or make a water splashing sound.
I think there's some very, very significant auditory UX issues to discuss.
So I guess in conclusion, I question whether this is even something that's worth doing given the problems it introduces. But we'll see, I guess.
I mean, if you could literally make the whole screen panel a fingerprint scanner, then great. But short of that, I have a little bit more trouble, like really thinking this would be.
I mean, what if they could just do like the bottom quarter of it?
Maybe. I don't know.
I would still feel uncomfortable without like any concrete indicator.
Yeah, I guess we shall see.
We shall see. All right, so last little bit of rumor roundup. February 26th, Motorola having an event at MWC, probably announcing the next Moto G, which somebody was trying to sell one.
I think they deleted the sale after they were
shocking.
Found out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems awfully fast to release a new Moto G. The G4 just came out, I think, was that like July of last year?
I think it was like May, wasn't it?
Was it? Well, at any rate, it hasn't even been a year. So they're gonna release a new one, but it's a pretty popular phone. So
you're right. It was July when they came out because that's when the review came up.
Yeah. So so they're gonna release a new one, I guess.
That
Of
said,
reasons.
the Moto Gs right now have pretty old chipsets, so I can see the reason for the upgrade.
Yeah, they have. What are they? 617.
That's Are they all 617s or some of them 615s?
I think that the G4s are all 617.
Okay. So yeah, I can see
yeah.
a chipset upgrade being in the cards because the 617 all the way up to $300, that's too much money.
Yeah,
for that
no, that
chip.
was the plus that was priced at 300. That was way too much for that chip. That like it bottlenecked the speed. Like you weren't really getting much for your money at that point. I think that the person who had the listing like put in like what the supposed specs
I think
were.
it's a 625, isn't it?
That sounds plausible.
But yeah, so we are invited to the MWC event on the 26th, so we will be there to see the G5 probably. So that's what it is, and G5 Plus, which is I think still a pretty big deal. I think those phones, even if they are not like big volume movers in America, they sell a lot of those phones in India and other
I mean,
emerging
and
markets.
if you're gonna buy a budget phone here, like that's the best one still.
It is. I think in terms of overall experience, it's the best you can do. Yeah. I definitely think so.
Okay, the listing for that phone, it said Snapdragon 625 2.0, which I don't know if that's actually a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible Qualcomm's doing a V2 because they did that with Snapdragon 810. But that wasn't like marketing materials. That was just like informal.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, the person that this phone might have came from originally was maybe somehow involved in marketing. Who knows?
Maybe that, or they found a phone. So fell off a truck. So yeah, I assume that's what we'll see there on February 26th. It is it's an offsite event at MWC, so I assume like there's going to be phones. Like there wouldn't be any other reason to do this.
Watches.
Oh yeah,
Moto 360.
watches. Yeah. The Moto 520.
They're gonna trick you into coming all the way over to their place, and they go, okay, watches.
Moto 540. I got my my degrees wrong there.
I think it's gonna be a new Moto Active.
Oh God.
A new Moto Rocker.
That.
I'm still waiting for the new Hint.
Oh God, I remember that too.
You know,
Motorola has a lot of products that are a little cringeworthy to remember.
Moto had a flip phone called the Pebble, PEBL.
They did.
It was very lustworthy back in the day. I was very into it.
Wasn't that one of those like tiny phones back when tiny phones were a thing?
It was pretty small.
Yeah. I remember that being a thing.
Yeah, I remember there was a Pantech phone that came out in like 2005 or something, and they advertised it as the smallest phone ever, and it was super ridiculously tiny. And then that was like, and everybody's like, oh, phones are just going to get smaller and smaller. And then everybody's like, wait a minute.
How wrong
what if we had a touch screen on the phone?
But the Moto Flip Out, that was a pretty small phone.
It was. It was a pretty bad phone, too. The Charm. Remember the Charm? Moto went through a phase where they were just like, hey, what if we just made all these stupid shapes for phones?
Okay, does anybody remember that time they ripped off the BlackBerry, the Admiral?
Yes. Didn't they license that keyboard from BlackBerry, though?
Did they? I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe they did.
Because it was super BlackBerry. Like, it had the shape for
it was dead on. So maybe, that's what it was.
Yeah, I remember that. And wait, they had another thing kind of like that. I forget what it was called. It was a year or two later.
You're right. Yeah, that thing looks ridiculous. Yeah, it's definitely a BlackBerry keyboard. There's no mistaking it.
Yeah, man, Motorola. They just like it's when
they
you
also
look
had that
back.
Square-looking one with the keyboard, which I forget what it was called.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Like when you look back at all the things Motorola has done, it is not hard to understand how things went south.
Yep. It wasn't the Charm, was it? It was the Charm.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
The Charm was the square one. That was the Passport before the Passport happened. That was like a proto Passport.
Wow.
Yep. Pretty bizarre phone.
Yeah, and I thought the backflip was the weirdest thing they made.
Oh, the Droid Pro too. That was another one that had the keyboard, the BlackBerry-ish keyboard.
Wasn't that just like a pro version of the Admiral?
Was it like a
Oh no, it isn't. It's a totally different phone, isn't it? Wow, that thing looks bizarre. I think this is back when Motorola was still super into just building a phone based on whatever a carrier asked for. Like a carrier's like, we want a QWERTY phone that runs Android and has 4 navigation buttons.
So back in the QWERTY days, when everybody's like, physical keyboards, we need those.
Also, the search button being like a standard nav button.
I was very upset when that went away.
I'm not going to say I still don't miss that a little bit.
It was nice. You could always be like, I want to search for things in this app. I'll hit the search button on my phone.
Yeah. It was kind of handy back in the day. Yeah, that's one of those guilty things that I still kind of want.
I actually don't recall ever using.
I use it all the time.
I'm pretty sure I didn't use it. And in fact, I don't even remember, like, did it work in every app?
Not every app.
Didn't have search.
It was pretty common.
No, but it was a good way. Like, you could tap home, then search in rapid succession, and then start typing, which was like what I use it for all the time.
Yeah, but you can just hold home
and
now.
you could long press it to get voice commands.
You could.
You can long press home to get voice commands.
Maybe I don't want voice commands sometimes. I don't know. All right, this
is the menu button too.
Nostalgia of the search key.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. Note 7 fires. We've got reports that are coming apparently on the 23rd. We're going to have an official report from Samsung, but we're hearing that faulty batteries are to blame, which sounds obvious until you consider some of the other stories floating around about there not being ample space and last-minute design changes and software, firmware shenanigans. So apparently faulty batteries after all, which I don't know. Faulty batteries seems like it would make sense for the first wave of.
Yeah, this report, it just is very strange for me because they were like, okay, this must be the batteries. They replaced the batteries and it still did it. So unless they made the second batch of batteries exactly to spec for the first ones, and then like there was something wrong with the design, then I don't see how it could just be an internal battery issue. And that seems like it would be very short-sighted. Like, hey, there might be something wrong with this battery design, but let's make the exact same ones again.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. My conspiracy theory is, it's not even a conspiracy, just my theory is, so Samsung went about this with the belief, which I think is a reasonable belief in terms of battery manufacturing, that the problem was a manufacturing defect. And so they said, okay, Samsung was at Samsung SDI, obviously has something wrong in the manufacturing line. We need to investigate all the equipment, all the procedures. In the meantime, let's hand off this battery that we, Samsung Electronics, designed and is obviously flawless to a new supplier who can do it right. And then, whoops, maybe not. So that's my theory at this point.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that would be egg all over Samsung's face.
I mean, because you have to figure what Samsung's motivation is to get the phone back on shelves and in production as fast as humanly possible. A manufacturing defect is the easiest way to say we can fix this.
That was like, that would have been a very convenient solution. But then if that's not the solution, we see what happens. It goes very, very bad for them. They should have just taken a little more time, apparently, and figured this out.
Yeah. So we will hopefully hear that on the 23rd. There will be a press conference in Korea.
But in the meantime, people still have their Note 7s and they don't want to give them up. Which is just.
Did you just steal Matt's segue?
You did. You stole it.
Don't call out the segue. That ruins the segue.
That's grand theft. You know how much a segue costs?
But at any, Matt, do you want to?
Yeah, so apparently Verizon is choosing to deal with the Note 7 holdouts by putting their IMEI numbers on a list that prevents them from making outbound phone calls. So if you like making phone calls, maybe a different phone would be a good idea for you if the fact that you might spontaneously combust wasn't enough. The part about this story that I thought was interesting was that apparently they're contemplating billing people who are still using their Note 7s the full price of the phone,
Yes.
which doesn't make any sense until you consider the fact that Verizon already issued full refunds to everyone who purchased their phone, whether they returned it or not.
Yeah, apparently people have been getting emails telling them that this is going to happen, like if they don't turn the phone in. And some people are like, no, that's fine. I'll just keep the explosive phone and pay for it because apparently I'm dumb.
They're liars. They're not going to do that. They're
my God.
The only reason they still have it is because Verizon's not charging them for it.
Go to the Note 7 subreddit and just wallow in the insanity.
What these people are basically daring to say is, oh, I bet Verizon won't actually charge me for it, or I bet Verizon won't do anything if I don't pay the full charge. As somebody who went to Verizon Collections, not my finest hour, I got lazy after I switched to AT&T and never bothered to pay the bill. Verizon is very fastidious in collecting. They are very, very fastidious. As soon as you hit that 60-day mark, bam, they are on you and your credit report. So, no, Verizon will be fast and hard, I believe, in this promise. So I would not risk that. But if you have thoughts or enraged about this change, you can call us from your Verizon Note 7 at 530-HELLO-AP. But actually, you can't because they don't let you do that anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, and the weird thing is now everybody is trying to that still has a Note 7. They're like, how can I make sure I don't get like this breaking? Can I clone another IMEI and do all sorts of like sketchy, like semi-illegal things? Which is just like, why are you going to so much trouble for this phone? Like, why? Really? Like, you can't just get a different phone? It's not like it was the best phone ever created.
Like, I think some of these people are under the delusion that they'll hold out until the Note 8. Like, I just need to wait till next year's phone, and then I'll finally, I bet there's some people who honestly think their phone's going to be like worth more money than when they bought it because it's now like it's a rare antique. It's a dangerous phone.
If I could obtain like a completely discharged Note 7 just to have, that would be fun. That would be like a neat antique. But yeah, I don't think you want to keep that as a phone you're using. Because like 90-something% of them have been turned in. So there haven't been any reports of fires lately because there are very few of them left. But that doesn't mean you want to like push it.
Yeah. I guarantee that like 95% of people who still have them at this point on Verizon still have them because they think they got a free phone. Like, I guarantee that's what Verizon is so regretting granting automatic refunds to everybody at this point.
Yeah. I mean, well, if blocking the phone numbers will probably get a lot of people to just give up. Like if somebody tries to place a call and just goes through to customer service every time, and they're like, "Hey, we noticed you still have this phone you're not supposed to have. Can we have it back?" They're gonna eventually give in.
They should have like a special customer service team at Routes 2 called the Bomb Squad.
And they're just like, "Hey, we see you have a Note 7. We have a van en route to your location. Just give them the phone, and we'll hand you a different one."
All right, so it's time to move on to product reviews, and this time around we've got an NVIDIA Shield from 2017, so a new NVIDIA Shield announced at CES. And David, you wrote up a little piece on that. Do you care to share your mind?
Yes, so the new 2017 Shield is out. So everything you like about Shield, except now it adds IR Blast to the gamepad and remote control. It includes both the remote control and the gamepad, both of which are new in the box for the same price, $199. The actual Shield console is like way smaller, which is good. Other than that, these changes are all software, and those will all come to the original Shield. The update for the 2015 Shield hasn't quite gone out yet. It should go out by next week, according to NVIDIA. So, should you upgrade to the new Shield if you have an old one? No, that would be an actually waste of money. Don't do that. That's silly. If you're looking to get a Shield for the first time or add another Shield to your household, should you? Yes, because this one is basically better in most ways. The one caveat right now, and it's an annoying one, I've heard I myself and several people I've talked to have had issues with the new Shield remote, not the gamepad, but the actual like little tiny TV remote style thing. The main issue is that it constantly says the batteries are low, and then it'll stop responding after a little while, until you like let it sit and then pick it back up and then it works again. So it seems like there's some kind of battery read bug in the remote. I'm talking to NVIDIA about this. They're going to send me a new remote to see if maybe if like there's a defective batch of remotes. If that's it, maybe it's something that can be fixed. But I have a feeling that this is some kind of like firmware issue, the way it's reporting battery status, because the new Shield remote does not use a lithium ion battery anymore. It's not rechargeable. It uses watch batteries. So it uses two of the CR2032 batteries. And I replaced mine in my remote with some I ordered on Amazon, different brand, just to make sure, and it's still having the same problem. So that's annoying. Everything else works great. I haven't had any other unusual problems or anything. Everything seems to work just as good. The new Shield software, the 5.0 experience, adds some significant upgrades for game stream, if that's something you use. I tested it with Battlefield 1, and actually it worked and was legitimately playable over a Google Wi-Fi mesh point, which I was deeply surprised to find. I tried the same with Project Cars. It was not really playable. So it's going to vary by title. If you're Ethernet hardwired into the Shield, though, you shouldn't have any issues. There's a new version of GeForce Now, as well as all the games are now in a single hub app. It's not the Shield hub. It's like the NVIDIA Games app now, which, whatever. There's Amazon Instant Video, which Shield 1 is getting too. It's there. It works. It does 4K and HDR, which not even the Fire TVs do yet. So the Fire TVs do 4K on Amazon, but they don't do HDR. So this is the first, as far as I know, TV or set-top box to do Amazon 4K HDR. Maybe not. Maybe there's TVs out there that do it already. I bet there are. So it's the first set-top box, I believe, to do it, though. Other than that, it's the same Shield box, same chipset, same internals. You do lose the micro SD and micro USB slots, and you lose the IR receiver inside the console. So if you're using a Harmony remote and you were relying on that receiver to function with the remote, NVIDIA says they're working with Logitech to add Harmony support over Bluetooth instead at a later date.
Can you use the older Shield accessories with the new one, like over Wi-Fi Direct? Okay.
I don't think there's any reason you can't do that. The old Shield remote was Bluetooth as well, but this new Shield remote
that was Wi-Fi.
Yes, I believe. And I think the new controller is Wi-Fi still too. I'm not sure actually about that. I would have to ask NVIDIA.
Because I thought I heard that you could use the new controller wirelessly with a PC. So I thought that it was going to be Bluetooth as well.
Oh, then I don't know. That's a good question. I've not tested that, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I know that the old remote is Bluetooth. The new remote is Bluetooth 4.1. The old one was 3.0. So the new remote is much more power efficient, but I don't know about the protocol changes for the gamepad. One thing that I think is important to note, NVIDIA made kind of a lot of hubbub about Google Assistant when they announced the Shield. That is not out of the box. That does not come as part of the Shield Experience 5.0 upgrade. That wasn't clear to me because I didn't read well, but also at the same time, I kind of assumed Nougat means assistant. And so I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about like that little the plug-in hub thing that they announced too.
The Spot.
Like, so that plugs into Assistant on the Shield.
Yeah, so it's NVIDIA's not talking about how any of that actually works though. That's just like we're going to talk more about that at a later date. I think it's very cool though. Like I really want that if it works as well as you would think it works. Because I don't want to have to put a Google Home in every.
Yeah, right. Like that's the thing is like I like having Google Home, like, but I don't want to buy one for like every room. And
yeah, if I can get one of these for like $40, that'd be
like if you have if you have the Shield for like $200 and then every spot is like $40. Like if you have more than a couple, it's way cheaper than buying $100 home for every room.
Definitely. No, I'm very curious about Spot. It looks like a very interesting product. So we'll hear more about that. That is the one that doesn't have a release date, doesn't have pricing. That's all ambiguous. So hopefully the Google Assistant update comes sooner rather than later. I would bet we're waiting on Google for part of that to get out there, because that update will also add the always-on listening for the new remote and gamepad.
And so that's only for the new one. They're not going to put Assistant on the old one.
Yes, the Assistant will be on the old one.
Oh,
completely,
Oh.
exactly the
Okay.
same software. So the way this works is the only thing about Assistant that's limited to the new one. It's not actually limited to it. It's just limited to it based on the controlling hardware. Is the always-on listening. So if you have an old Shield 2015, if you buy the new 2017 Shield gamepad or the controller, now the controller is not available, or I should say the remote. The remote is not available yet standalone, but the gamepad will be available standalone immediately. Those are the only pieces of control hardware that allow the always-on listening.
Or maybe the Spot will let you do it too.
The Spot could eventually let you do that as well. So that's also a thing. So it is, I admit, slightly confusing. But the fact is that if you pair your old Shield console to the new Shield controller hardware, when the Assistant update comes, you'll get the always-on listening, along with the Assistant that you get anyway. So they're doing their very best to make sure that both devices are at feature parity where at all possible.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're literally probably going to be at like 99% feature parity. I mean, there's basically just that one little cross section where you have to buy the new Shield gamepad or remote to get the always-on stuff. Other than that, exactly the same.
So remind me, does the Shield 2017 have the ridiculous storage option?
Yes, there's a Shield Pro, which actually I believe is actually not a new product. I believe it's the old Shield Pro. They're just keeping on selling it, and that has the micro SD, the micro USB, and the IR receiver.
Are they bundling the new remote and stuff though?
Yes. So it is so it would be a new SKU because of the products bundled with it, but yeah, it's the same old box with all the same old stuff.
All right. Good deal. So one last little bit of news that we want to cover surrounding Andy Rubin. Of course, Andy Rubin of Google, but prior to that, might have been involved a little bit in the invention of Android. So there's that.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. So Andy has moved on. He is now working as a part of an unannounced company called Essential to develop some pretty cool, futuristic, bezel-less, not modular, that's not fair, phones with some add-on functionalities, we'll put it that way, that I don't know, if they come out and they are good, then they will be good. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say if they're good, they're going to be good.
That's a pretty big limb to go out on.
I know, right?
I am... honestly, I'm scared.
Okay, the article says that it will have a proprietary connector, which does not sound super compelling.
Who
A
would
bezel-less
make that?
phone doesn't sound compelling.
But like, who would make the decision to like not use a standard connector at this point? Haven't we all?
Okay,
just-
no. So the thing about this was, it doesn't say there isn't a standard connector. It just says for the adaptations, modules, expansion, that there will be a proprietary connector.
Oh, okay.
My guess is that there's a standard connection on the bottom of the phone and a proprietary connector on the top of the phone. The one thing they talk about connecting to the proprietary connector is a 360 camera, and putting that on the bottom of a phone doesn't make any sense to me.
Putting that on a phone at all doesn't seem to make a lot of
It
sense
makes
to me.
no goddamn sense whatsoever, honestly. And you could do it over a USB connector. There's no reason for proprietary.
Or Wi-Fi
at all.
Direct.
Yeah, I'm sorry that. And a 360 camera is a selling point, like a 3D camera is a selling point.
Like how many
Nobody
360-degree cameras do you think Samsung and LG sold combined? Like maybe a dozen in the world.
I mean,
my guess is it's more than a dozen.
I don't know.
There's me stepping out on a limb again.
Don't
I'm
get me
sure
wrong.
there
Samsung's
are,
360
like, more
camera
detailed.
is like one of my favorite objects they've ever produced. It's so fun. It's like a little alien sphere. It's really neat, but I have no use for it. I don't think anybody really has any use for it. It's super cool, but it has that kind of Nexus Q vibe going on. Like, wow, somebody spent a lot of time really thinking about like how I want this to look and feel, and kind of the experience of like setting it up with its little built-in tripod and everything.
Yeah.
Goddamn useless for most things.
You know, I have the 360-degree LG camera around here somewhere for the G5.
That was not thoughtfully
I
designed.
used
That's
it.
just
No,
sustainable.
it was not. No, I used it once, just one time to test it, and I was like, no, this is cool. Maybe I'll use this for something every now and then. Never again. It has never come up.
Same here with mine. I mean, I've messed with them a bit, and yeah, 360 cameras. VR. Okay, so the things that aren't there yet. First off, the VR is like, well, yeah, it can cope with it, but I don't feel like the 360-degree like video resolution is good enough until you're filming with like effective 16K, which I've seen on like a Gear VR where there's somebody's used a rig to do a 16K effective capture, and that looks very interesting. But like regular 4K at a very compressed bit rate is not that great.
And I feel like it's also just hard to produce 360 video independently that isn't going to make people feel sick when they're watching it.
Yes, it has to be a stationary camera to even, have a hope. I
Can
still
I just say that watching 360 video is a great way to feel like you're not seeing everything. Because guess what?
Oh my God. My anxiety with 360 video is very high. Like, I'm always concerned, like, am I looking at the right place? Is this where the action is? Is there something going on behind me that I should be checking out? Like, this is very concerning for me. It's like it's immersive, but not in a good way. Like, I feel like I'm being given a job. Like
I'm trying to remember, there's a 3D experience video thing for Daydream View that's called like Invasion or something like that.
Yeah, I have viewed that.
And I watched that thing, and I probably rewatched that like 3 times just because I was sure that I wasn't looking at the right thing. And then you watch it 3 times and realize, no, it just really isn't that interesting.
It's just really underwhelming. I think it's in the Within app. Is that a thing for Daydream?
I don't know. I think 360 in VR is in general. I don't like video capture 360 because I feel like for going on like over 100 years at this point, we have created video and film in this square box, and the box is good because it tells us what is important. It allows the artist to express that. 360 video is inherently very chaotic. I can understand 360 video maybe from like a sports aspect where the viewer wants that autonomy to say, I'm more interested in what's going on over here. Even then, though, I feel like there's a lot of potential to miss out, where you make the bad decision and you don't get to see what's actually important. You miss that key moment because you decide to put your attention somewhere else.
And if you tell the viewer, where they should look with like visual cues, then you're just basically taking the responsibility of changing the camera and putting it on the user.
Like you're saying, no, the 360 part's all bullshit. You need to look over here to figure out what's happening.
And I think part of the problem is that you're missing the audio cues that you would have in real life that sort of direct you to like the things that are worth paying attention to. Like you just have like left channel and right channel, and it's hard to simulate like, this is where important things are happening with the audio.
My feeling is that I am generally oblivious enough without having to be oblivious for videos that I'm specifically trying to watch. Like, and I think you were kind of hinting at this, David, is like, if you're going to use visual cues to tell the viewer where to look, then what better visual cue do you have than making it not a 360 video and just putting that part that you want to watch on the screen?
Yeah. I think the 360 video does have occasions, where it can be useful, but I think they're much more limited than maybe right now we want to think. Like the idea of watching a movie in 360 sounds very, very anxiety provoking to me. I don't want that. That doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah.
There's things I think like a 360 video of like a skydive or something like that. Something where there's not specifically an event that you need to be watching, but something that you want to just kind of feel like you're experiencing.
Yeah,
Makes
like I mean,
sense.
if it's a scene that doesn't have like exposition, like if it's like this is the setting, like if you could do like a 360-degree video of like the opening scene in Saving Private Ryan, I think that would make sense because there are a lot of things around to look at, and none of them is necessarily more important than the other. Like you just like look at all this stuff that's happening.
But the thing I've heard pointed out about that by content creators is basically like, yeah, that in itself sounds like a good premise, but the practical concerns in terms of choreographing everything are a nightmare. And what is the actual payoff if we don't do the whole film this way? Probably no payoff at all.
No, this is an idea that makes sense for short bursts. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't see how you could make any sort of like feature length content that really.
And so I think with 360, the Cody's talking about right now in the chat is experiences and games make far more sense. Video generally doesn't make nearly as much. There are some cases where it does work, but anyway, I would say
we were talking about Andy Rubin's phone.
We're talking about Google's phone.
So we don't know. Do we know any of the other adapter module customization jigs?
Can we go off on a tangent about any of these other things for 5 minutes?
5?
I don't know if there were any other ones. I am just concerned that Andy Rubin's been out of the smartphone game for like a long time now.
Yeah, I mean, and his contribution was like the software. Like
Which could be good. I mean, that's a area where maybe he has something to offer.
But then like going off and doing like, okay, but here's this stupid hardware thing we're gonna do. I don't want to call it. It's like I don't know that it's stupid. I'm just saying it sounds like it might be. That is disconcerting.
Yeah. The fact that they're hedging so much on all the hardware features is like, no, I don't actually care that much about that. I care about it being like a good user experience, a good owner experience. Not so much about what you're doing to push the envelope of
like the Pixel. Like the Pixel is a great phone, and it's not like hey, look at all this crazy new stuff the Pixel does. It's like, no, the Pixel just does the phone stuff really well.
I would like to point out that according to the Bloomberg report, the engineers are developing a proprietary connector that serves double duty for charging the battery and expanding the phone's functionality.
Okay.
So I think that might
and also
the concept of
related, according to Bloomberg, you will be assimilated.
Damn it! Yes. I was going to say that. I was waiting for an opening.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I know. Star Trek jokes are few and far between.
I know. Oh well, I get the next one.
So yeah, Andy Rubin's gonna make a phone. I feel doubtful that it'll come out at the stated time frame or at the stated price point, but we'll see. Andy Rubin has, at the same time though, Andy Rubin's name is in and of itself like a venture capital, like magnet. Like it's the guy who created Android. How could his idea not be amazing? So,
well,
I'm curious.
You get a couple freebies when you do something like that.
Yeah,
it's like Peter Molyneux. He did some really awesome stuff, and that's gotten him a bit of a free ride. But now he's done some really bad stuff.
Yeah, and so apparently this company, by the way, this wasn't mentioned too much in our post. They're going to focus on smart home stuff too, which to me is like, oh boy, getting yourself in the quagmire. So that's also going to be kind of a major focus on what they do. So yeah, I'm, like I said, very curious to see what happens there. But the idea that the bezel-lessness of the phone is like a headline thing, it's a red flag for me right now.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to email. We got an email this week from Eric. Eric penned out a pretty long email. I'm going to boil it down to the basics, which Eric was inspired to write us based on the story that was posted on the site about the unlocked version of the U.S. unlocked version, I should say, of the Moto Z not receiving Nougat yet. However, he points out that LG and Samsung have both gone similar routes for the U.S. versions of the S7 and S7 Edge and G5, where it just seems as though US unlocked versions of phones probably not the best buyer's decision. So his question is, should people avoid unlocked flagships targeted in the US market if a manufacturer is also releasing carrier models of the same flagship? People have typically gone the unlocked route for faster updates, but LG, Moto, and Samsung never got the memo. So what are your thoughts?
So I've not looked into this personally in terms of the update status on these phones. However, this is not the first time I've heard this about the unlocked S7, definitely. It is the first time I heard about the unlocked G5, but nobody probably really has.
That's because nobody talks about the G5 anymore.
So in the V20, I can definitely believe it. So basically the idea here is, yeah, LG released Nougat on basically every carrier for the G5 by now. I think there might, I don't know if AT&T has it yet. But or even T-Mobile necessarily. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that. But the unlocked version that you buy on, say, B&H Photo doesn't have it yet. Same with the Galaxy S7. Granted, no carrier Galaxy S7 has the Nougat update yet. And they only have the beta, which was very limited signups in the United States. Just now, within the last week, or two, maybe, the official Nougat has started to go out to international versions of the S7. Same with the V20. It's behind on security builds, which big surprise.
Yeah.
I would say that it is generally a bad idea to buy unlocked versions of the flagship phones from LG and Samsung in America because they generally have not done this in the past. They're very low volume in terms of actual sales. And there's a very good chance you'll get lost in the cracks in terms of the software support policy. So I think, it's sad to say, but yeah, choosing to have a phone that you can take where you want and that isn't subject to bloatware could make you worse off in America. That's a very sad thing to say.
The carrier versions, like the carriers foot part of the bill for building the software updates.
They foot some of it, I think. I think it's kind of built into the contract.
Right.
Basically.
And so like if it's a phone that like they're selling like without the carriers, they're just selling it unlocked, then the OEM has to say, okay, we'll have to pay for all of what it costs to do this rollout. How important is that? Like, how many phones did we sell? How many people will we upset if we delay this update for a really long time? And the answer is probably not very many.
And the same thing right now is happening, obviously, with the Moto Z in the United States, where you've been able to buy the GSM unlocked version since September, I believe, of last year. The Verizon version of that phone has had the update since November, but the unlocked version still doesn't have it.
Yeah, it's really sad in Motorola's case because they used to, like, until this year, they were just like, here's our phone, it's unlocked, you just buy it, and that's it. And now they're like, okay, also, here's the same phone on Verizon that we're going to support better.
Now, we got a statement from Motorola about this, but Android Central got a little bit more detailed in their talks with Moto, where it was articulated that there are two different teams working on the firmware, which, I mean, excuse my French, makes no fucking sense. It's the same damn phone with different radio builds. Don't be goddamn ridiculous. Like, in a different, like, bloatware package. This is stupid. This feels like Lenovo, in their bureaucracy, essentially either splitting up resources at Moto in a way that doesn't make sense from a user experience perspective, or, something stupid was done here. There's no reason this should ever happen. The Verizon version, if anything, should require more development work than the unlocked GSM version.
So, I mean,
it doesn't make any sense.
I feel like they're just directing the resources to the Verizon one because Verizon is paying them money to do.
Yeah, exactly. And Verizon's, probably, honestly, Verizon has been cracking the whip on updates lately. Yeah. And so I feel like maybe Verizon's like, yeah, you want to work with us, you need to get the updates out a little quicker.
I'm sure they get sick and tired of people calling and complaining to them that their phones don't have updates.
I bet they do, because that costs them money.
Yeah.
If those people get to an actual human being, that costs $1.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to about do it for this week's show. If you have any questions like Eric did, you can email us at podcast@androidpolice.com. You can also give us a call at 530-HELLO-AP. That is 530-435-5627. You can also find us on Twitter at Android Police and on Google Plus and Facebook.
All right, I'm going to start the broadcast.